to Community Connections, a set of online workshops created by New Roots Community Group. Here at New Roots Community Group, we felt it was really important to connect you, the community, with much needed advice and support. So far, we've had career, we've had finance, we've had fitness, and today I'm very pleased to bring you well-being. So, for well-being today, I have with me Jericho and Rhyana, and they will be talking with us and sharing some tips and advice and just giving us a little bit of insight into how we can best navigate this current ever-changing situation that we find ourselves in. My first question for you both is, I'd like you to tell me a little bit about what you do, who you are, and most importantly, your why.
Go first?
Go first. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so my name is Jericho Bulaun. I'm a transformational coach and speaker. So what I do is I enable people to become more self-aware so that they can enjoy a life that they love creating. And my why is really to facilitate what I call inner freedom. Inner freedom for me is this idea that we are stepping out of the characters and the people that we think we are, right? And into who we actually are, so that we can then show up in the world a lot more powerfully.
Me? Okay, so I'm Rhyana, Rhyana Ebanks-Babb. I would say I am a self-care solutionist. That's what I call myself. So a lot of the time I would provide workshops, information, and just resources around self-care, self-help, and just understanding self-healing practices as well. So that way you're able to find your true self, but also manage your emotional well-being, regulation, and overall well-being.
Amazing, thank you so much. So before we move into the main section, can I just get you to tell the audience where they can find you, where they can connect with you, please?
Yeah, sure. So you can go onto my website, www.jerichobulaun.com, or on Instagram at Jericho Bulaun. Those two are the main places you can reach me best.
Amazing.
Cool. And me, you can find me on Instagram. It's Plan WEG, and also I've got a website, Plan WEG, Facebook, YouTube, and if you want something a little bit more professional, you can find me on LinkedIn as well.
Amazing, thank you so much. Okay, so we'll go into our first segment, which is my questions for you, Jericho.
Sure.
And I know you spoke a little bit about your coaching, but if you could break down for us, what does your coaching consist of? What does it look like?
Yeah, so coaching is a very kind of to use some of the similar words that we use, and it's a very solutions-based. What's the word I'm looking for? It's a very solutions-based relationship.
Okay.
Right. So I take someone from where they are currently, we identify where they would like to be, and then we look at the steps to close that gap. And on the journey to close that gap, we process some of the kind of blockers that they're experiencing, the stories that they're telling themselves that are limiting them from taking the action that they need, and then we do some like the self-awareness stuff that I'm talking about is by kind of implementing mindful practices, like for example meditation, for example journaling, for example, all these different types of things. So there's two main phases, which is like the healing phase of healing someone from where they are and acknowledging why they're not at the place that they would like to be, and then the other part is like the building. So there's the healing and building is something that I would kind of cycle between when I'm working with someone, because that's the continual process of this idea of self-actualization. It's you kind of level up, and then you reach another level where something needs to be released, and so you have to heal through something again, and you kind of level up. So it's like a game, right? When you level up, there are like bosses that you have to defeat all the time. So that's the main. If I had to put it to two things of my coaching, is healing and building, or integration, as some people might call it.
Amazing. So that sounds like quite a long-term process. So how do you normally, when you take on clients, how do you normally kind of work out your contract or your client? what's the word I'm looking for?
Engagement.
Client engagement.
Yeah. So for me, it really depends on where someone is in their life. Some people come looking for something very specific, and they have a timeline that they would like to work with. And some are looking for more of a journey, and that's when we would work together for a longer period of time.
Okay.
They might have some specific things along the way, or maybe, for example, in a year's time, I would like to be this person, or I would like to be in this place, whether it's professionally, whatever it is. And so we kind of work together to identify what would be best. And for me, in my experience, it's 6 months or 12 months, and there's shorter kind of programs that maybe are kind of addressing something very specific. So more recently, I've done a program on confidence and authenticity, and that can run over 6 to 8 weeks. But in terms of a bigger life transformation, that's where it takes slightly longer.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much. So something that I've heard you mention is self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
What does self-awareness look like to you?
Yeah, it's a good question. Self-awareness for me is bringing a light to your own darkness, right? It's coming face to face with the things that maybe you've been hiding from, so that then you can use those exact things to help you transform into someone that you want to be, or something that I've been saying more recently is, rather than changing into something else, it's kind of reverting back to who you are, right? So self-awareness is familiarizing yourself with who you already are, and then from there moving on to see what you would like to build and see who you would like to become. Okay,
so what practical tips, so if somebody wanted to take this journey, someone wanted to become more self-aware, what practical tips would you give them?
Yeah, I think one of the maybe easier things, maybe more practical things, is just to start, is to pick up a mindful practice, maybe like journaling. Maybe journaling is one of the easiest ones. I think meditation can be quite intimidating for someone who's not very used to it. So journaling, just really understanding how you feel, and when you're more mindful of how you feel, more often than not, you come face to face with things that trigger you, maybe things that maybe you haven't kind of addressed. Maybe you're holding someone, you're kind of holding a grudge with someone. Maybe you're holding a grudge with yourself for something that you did a long time ago. I don't know. But if you would like to go on this journey, it's really understanding yourself on all the different levels that you kind of operate at in life. Understand yourself with your circle of friends, with your family, in your kind of professional life, and then the idea is, how can we break those walls down so it's not a different version of you, but you're showing up as you in all different situations. So to begin that is just to start understanding who you are at the moment, and how you show up at the moment. So maybe just trying to catch yourself in different things, and this person said that, it made me feel like this. Why am I feeling like that? Maybe they didn't mean to say it like this, but this is how I perceived it, right? So just starting to ask yourself these open questions, and maybe something like journaling might help.
Okay, so journaling is like a major tip.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that's one of the maybe easier things to pick up if meditation feels a bit intimidating. Yeah, like just to sit there and kind of be in the silence. Sometimes that's a bit scary for some people.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jericho.
Thank you.
So now my question's for you, Rhyana. You speak about emotional resilience. What exactly is emotional resilience, and how would somebody develop it?
It's a good question, actually. And when I was looking at this before, I was like, how do I explain emotional resilience as simply as possible? But what I describe it as, the ability to not only bounce back from uncertainties and adversities in life, but you're also able to build the toughness that you need to pursue a fresher, newer version of the story that you're creating for yourself.
Okay.
So even when it comes down to, but the reason why I say specifically emotional resilience, because you can have physical resilience, intellectual resilience, but emotional resilience, I believe, is the one that runs, it's the thread that runs underneath all of them, because without having an emotional balance and being able to regulate yourself emotionally, physical toughness means nothing. Intellectual toughness means nothing if you're not able to balance out how this situation or whatever situation you're facing is affecting your state. Emotions is your state. So resilient states means that you're able to be stable. Yeah, I think that's probably the best way to say it. Just to be emotionally stable and balanced.
Perfect. So how would someone begin? Like, for example, I'm not really familiar with it. If I wanted to now develop my emotional resilience, what would be my first steps in doing that?
I can give you a perfect example, given the fact that we're going through or coming out of this long-winded pandemic. And the fact that it has been so long, I think, is the pinnacle point of understanding where people can move from just day-to-day stress to toxic stress, and understanding how the stress impacts you over time. It's now you're having to counter that impact over time as well. So something that I've definitely been doing, as Jericho said, journaling is always my go-to. I would always advise people to actually understand what you're feeling, ask those specific questions that you wouldn't generally ask someone else. Like, you can ask them to yourself. My phrase is blank pages don't judge you. So you can ask the blank page anything, and you may not get an answer, obviously, but at least you've had that space to offload where, for example, that may be prayer for some people, it may be meditation for some people, but it's that ability to give yourself that space, that permission to be authentic. Another thing I would say is acceptance is probably the hardest thing anyone that is going through anything can try and do, but it's probably the first thing you need to do is accept the situation that you're going through, rather than shying away from it and thinking that, okay, if I bury my head it might go away, or someone else can help me with it, it's not mine to own. But actually accepting the situation for what it is, where it is at, and just going head on with how you want to start pursuing it, because without acceptance you won't be able to find out what steps you need to put into place to build that toughness. You're just going to have that cloud in your head and the cloud in your heart, and you're not going to know what direction to go in. So acceptance, journaling, just clarity, and committing to actually doing the work. People say they do the work, but do you do the work? No. So commitment to doing the work and doing it well.
Amazing, thank you. So that kind of leads on to my next question, which is, what does personal development look like to you?
I got asked this the other day as well. Personal development is probably the words that have been embedded in me for a very long time, but it's just about being the best version of yourself that you can be, in a nutshell. And that's plastered all over my website. Be the best version of yourself, whether it be through building your self-esteem, building your confidence, and building on your self-image, whatever it may be that you feel you need to work on, build it and become the best version of yourself, not for others, but for yourself. Because again, well, obviously you guys weren't there on the camera when we was talking before, but being servants, being of service to others. You can't be of service to others if you're not of service to yourself. So that starts with being able to develop internally, and that then resonates to the external world as well. So building from within, I've even got it on my t-shirt, building resilience from within. That's again the pinnacle part of personal development as well. It's just starting from the internal, and then it's spreading to the external, your social circles, wider society, global change. That's what we're aiming for. But yeah, that's what personal development is to me.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Rhyana. Now, that's the end of our questions. And if you don't mind, I'd like to go off script. A question for you both. You both mentioned it, so I'd really like to explore it. Authenticity. You both mentioned it, so do you mind sharing a bit more about what you meant when you said authenticity? Why is it important? What is it like? How am I not authentic already? But yeah.
Do you want to go
Yeah,
first?
sure. So, authenticity for me is something that I've been really working on with some of my clients recently. Is how do we step out of the characters that we've been building ourselves to be, maybe not consciously, right? But for example, when we're kids, we are quite literally downloading things from our surroundings. These things are then wired into our subconscious. They become who we think we should be based on how we experience things like love. In what situations do we receive love? Do we receive attention? In what situations am I supposed to be this? In what situations am I supposed to be, All of these things that we experience start to become the character that we build ourselves up to be. So for example, if I'm telling myself, I want some attention right now, and when I was younger, the only time I got attention was in this particular situation, I'm going to subconsciously create that situation in my life so I can receive that interaction, receive that emotion. And these become the characters that we build ourselves up to be. So in any scenario that we show up to in life, we kind of reference how we received what we want from that scenario, and then we go and put on that mask, we put on this dress, whatever we want to do, so that we can receive what we want. And authenticity is understanding that was all a show. Authenticity is understanding that this is a condition that I was conditioned to believe, right? It's in this scenario, I believed, or I was told, or I was shown, or I experienced that this is how I'm supposed to be. And authenticity for me is, how can we get behind this character and understand that we've always been there, because the character can change at any moment, right? The character always changes. So how can I be the person who's behind that? And one of the keys for me to start stepping into this kind of authentic version of you, or the one that's been there all the time, is by asking yourself, what are your values, right? And what are your priorities? And then, who am I being right now? Because if you can address all those three things, if you value something else than what you currently believe, then there's a misalignment there, right? If I believe something but I value something else, then how do I change those things around so that I'm actually acting from what I value rather than what I've been believing for my whole life? So for example, if we could make it something practical, someone said to me the other day, I believe that I need to suffer right now so that I can enjoy later, right? And the story was around sacrifices and around what she deserves in terms of her job, in terms of how she progresses at work. And I said, well, what do you actually value? If you believe that that's what you should be going through in life, then you're going to be creating that for yourself. You're going to be creating situations where it's a struggle. So her relationship with her manager isn't great. Her relationship with colleagues isn't great, because she believes that she needs to struggle so that she can get to somewhere that she deserves to be. And if you value your capability, if you value what you're able to do, then you start to act from a completely different place. You start to show up as a completely different, or it feels like a completely different person. So being able to address what you value and what you prioritize, and understand who you're currently being, it starts to break away this character. It starts to break away the thing that we feel like we should be, or the person that we have been being. And then that's when authenticity is allowed to emerge from that kind of whatever breaks down.
Amazing. I feel like I need to write that down. Value, priority, and
who am I being?
Who am I being? Yeah. But yeah, amazing. And I guess what I got from that as well is kind of not washing away, but getting rid of our prior conditioning. Getting rid of our prior conditioning to allow us to now recondition ourselves as our truest selves. Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much, Jericho. Rhyana?
Yeah, I think building on what Jericho said, I was listening to our Oprah podcast, and it was really succinctly put. And I would say my version of what authenticity means is that you are able to not only show up, but show out for yourself, even when no one's looking, and do the best, even when no one's looking. And I think that's probably where people get it wrong. It's not always for others or for the view of others or what you look like. The concerns of your reputation and skills and quality, all of that doesn't matter when others aren't around, because you're still going to be that person. And if you're authentic, you will still be that person without the stress of trying to showcase that. But Oprah put it really wonderfully when she said that you can be vulnerable. You could be vulnerable and strong, even when you don't know the outcome. And I think that really put it into words, because being authentic, you don't know how someone's going to react to you being vulnerable, to laying your guard down, how you're going to react internally. Like, it's a physiological response sometimes you get when you're being authentic and being vulnerable, and some people don't like it. It creates a dis-ease within your stomach and within your heart and your chest. You can start palpitating, all sorts. And if you actually let it happen, that, I would believe, is being authentic, because you're just allowing everything to happen and flow as it's meant to.
Amazing, thank you so much. Amazing tips, guys. Thank you both so much for your time today. The gems that you have provided are priceless. Big thank you to the National Lottery Community Fund for making this all possible. Thank you as well to our viewers for giving us a reason, to show out, to show up. So thank you so much. We hope that you've enjoyed this session, and make sure you tune in, make sure you connect with us all and tune in for our next sessions. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, so something that came out of our talk that we thought we'd like to explore a little bit more is self-esteem, which is actually quite a buzzword. Especially at this in this kind of current climate with social media and all those different things that affect our self-esteem. What advice would you give to somebody who was struggling with low confidence or low self-esteem? What advice would you give them to kind of like, I don't know, to just move forward away from that?
So I think, for me personally, I really do believe that, it's building self-esteem is a journey of discovery, right? If we can identify the stories that we've been telling ourselves about who we are, the stories that tell us we are a certain way, and so that makes me feel like I'm not confident to go into a certain place, to be around a certain group of people, or to respond in a certain way. If we can identify the stories that we've been telling ourselves, then we can start to pick those stories apart, and then we see where the truth is. Because more often than not, we're believing a lie that we've been told, right? We're believing a lie that it's not safe to be expressive. We're believing a lie that it's not accepted to be a certain way, and so we take that to be our truth. And so self-esteem comes from what we believe about ourselves. And so if we can try and identify those stories, and you know what, a lot of the time it takes to get some help. I actually heard something the other day saying that this whole kind of personal development movement, it's forced people to ruminate, right? It's forced people to just reflect. And if you're already in a kind of negative state, then rumination is going to send you into a downward spiral. So to acknowledge it is one thing, but then to also acknowledge that you need help is another thing. So self-esteem, like I said, is a journey of discovery, trying to think about the stories that you've been telling yourself, so that then you can to either write a new one and create some new beliefs. But then again, underneath everything is just to be more familiar with who you are behind all of this, behind all these feelings, right? And maybe one more important thing is that feeling like this is allowed, right? You're allowed to not feel great about yourself. It's just about how you respond to that. And if you respond to it in a way that, I don't feel great about myself, and so I'm gonna hate myself, and I'm gonna, like you said, acceptance is one of the biggest keys to step forward, right? You accept that you don't feel great, and then you get to be quiet, you get to explore what that feels like and what that means to you.
I don't really know what much more to add to that, but one thing I can say is, to touch upon what you said about the stories you tell yourself. Something that I tell some of my clients is, what story are you telling yourself? Is it your truth or is it the truth? And there's a big difference between understanding the truth, because that's where, again, the authenticity comes out in it. But if it's your truth, that's where you have the scope to devalue your experience. And that's what I believe you were speaking about there, Jericho, is, the stories you tell yourself. Are they even yours? Are they someone else's? Are they your family members? Is this something that you've created out of a perceived situation that in actual fact didn't happen? Again, understanding your truth and the truth in the situation. But I think also another aspect of self-esteem is worthiness. Actually feeling like you have a place in this world, because I find a lot of people are trying to be connected or feeling connected to people, and when that may not happen, okay, what's the next thing? Because people aren't the only thing that you could be connected with. You are connected to this earth, and that is your place. Like you are a person on this planet for a reason, and understanding how that links to self-esteem. No matter what, you've always got a friend in the earth. Even if you can't find that friend in yourself, the bees are your friends, the trees are your friends. Every living organism on this planet is connected to you. So I think, again, knowing how that connects to self-esteem and worthiness, that you're worthy of being on this planet, just like the birds, the bees, the trees, the leaves, the organisms. But again, building on that, you're able to build on your authenticity, showing up dramatically, not shyly. Like, don't small yourself into spaces just to fit in. Showing up means enlarging your personality to its fullest extent, and showing up broadly, proudly, and with your head held high and your chest up, and say, I'm here. I'm here, and I'm here to stay.
Amazing. Something I really took from what you just said was, is it your truth or the truth? And like when I was battling with my self-esteem, like that was something I really had to dig deep and ask myself, okay, so what do you believe about yourself? But let's go that step further. Where does that belief come from? Like, why do you believe that? So yes, you might have these negative thoughts, but asking yourselves, okay, but where are these negative thoughts coming from? Are they coming from somewhere valid? Are they coming from a place that I should be allowing to impact my life? So yeah, is it your truth or is it the truth? Like, what are you allowing to be your dominant thoughts and beliefs about yourself? But yeah, some very powerful words. Thank you so much.
Just one last thing as well, to kind of get to that point, something that we do with the young people that we mentor. You ask yourself these 3 questions. What did you hear? What did they say? And what did you make it mean? Because that's usually where the self-esteem gets battled with, because you've misunderstood something, you've misheard something, or you've made it mean something that it actually wasn't. So what did you hear? What did it mean? What did you make it mean? And what did you see?
Yeah, that's a powerful one. What did you make it mean? Because we carry through life like things that are our interpretation, and our interpretation is sometimes molded by so many different aspects. And so, but we take this interpretation and we run with it. We run with, I'm not worthy. We run with these kind of negative beliefs. But yeah, what was said, what did you hear? And what did you make it mean? Amazing.
Develops your counter narrative.
I love
Thank you, guys.